Let's go, baby. All right. Welcome back to Waking the People. I am your host, Sir Chad Everett Broshears, and I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that only Prince would sing about, Joshua, my Kraken, your Patriot McClendon. All right. So Joshua, what do we got on deck today? What are we going to be playing with? The subject was
so many, Chad. TGIF, our loyal patriots and faithful subscribers, thank you for turning into another episode of Waking the People. Chad, we are 2 subscribers away from hitting our goal, which is actually expires tonight at midnight, of having 60 subscribers by the end of April. So again, if you have not subscribed yet and you enjoy Chad and I's videos, please go over there, hit that subscribe button, share that like button. Chad and I have kind of been experiencing with some different topics we normally don't cover. I feel that makes our videos a lot, user friendly on your Facebook page. So please share those videos. Sometimes we'll start wars on people's page. It's not our intention, but yeah, go hit that like button, share a comment. Yeah, Chad, we got a lot to talk about today.
Subscribe to my ass, God damn it. Let's go.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. We got a lot today. So we're going to talk about the NFL draft. That's going to be interesting. It was kind of crazy. It summed up what I feel like the NFL draft would be like in 2021. So we'll get into that a little bit. We have Ocho Cinco. Yep. I love Ocho. I think I have an Ocho Cinco jersey, actually.
The only reason why is I don't actually, I don't play any fantasy drafts of any type. I actually don't even pay attention to the sport. As I shared last time, I usually just drink in the stands, and then, everybody else goes, and I'm like, what happened? What was it? What did I miss? And then I continue bullshitting. Don't take me to a game if you like to watch it, basically. But with that, Joshua loves it. So he's going to be bringing in the information, and I'm just going to be sitting back, sipping away on my Friday. What is that? Libation.
I know. So beer review. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, got a little highlight. Actually, my favorite beer, ladies and gentlemen. It's by far my favorite beer. Chad has not had one yet. He's never had one. So your goal this weekend, Chad, is to go and have a highlight. Now, there's 7.5 in this thing. So if you put down 2 of these bad boys, someone's going to be highlight. So just be careful with it.
Somebody just got prettier. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Everything gets prettier. So we're going to talk about a certain somebody coming back. Trump talking about his comeback possibly. We're going to dive into that. I'm going to give you guys my Kentucky Derby picks. Don't think I forgot. I got 2 winners. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not a gambling advisor. 2 winners, Chad, on my piece of paper that I'm going to share with you guys that I have a good feeling about. It's going to be a lot of fun, Chad.
I got a bet that I am going to take, though. And it's going to be this.
Don't trust China. China is an asshole.
Yeah, don't trust China. China's an asshole. I'm taking that bet. China's an asshole. I don't want to trust them. Okay, moving on.
Maybe a horse, Chad. That very well may be a horse in the race. We got Bezos. That'll be fun. I kind of wanted to bet on him. Why don't I just go ahead and share it? We'll go ahead and knock that out of the way. It's not a long segment. Okay. Listen up, people. Here's what we got. I'm going to bet Essential Quality. So Essential Quality is the favorite. The horse has not lost all year long. He's a freight train. He's fast. I guess he's been working like crazy. So all the research that I've done, he's the favorite, 2-to-1 odds. The only downside to Essential Quality is that when you go on those long runs, you kind of get winded. So it'll be interesting because of how long the Kentucky Derby track is. So with that being said, I'm pretty confident I'm going to bet to win for him to take first, but we can always see what happens. My sleeper pick is a horse called Mandelo. Now, this horse had a really bad finish in the Louisiana Derby. It finished like 6th, and this horse was crushing it before then. And it lost to a horse who was actually in the race with it. What's the name of that horse? It was Hot Rod Charlie was the horse that it lost to. So I'm betting on Mandelo. I think he's going to have a really strong showing. He's a very hyped horse. That's the only horse I've really heard about. He's at 15-to-1. So, Chad, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bet to finish. That means I'm going to bet that he's either going to finish first, second, or third. So essentially, Chad, if Essential Quality wins and Mandelo places, I could double up my money. Or, it'd be 15-to-1 on Mandelo and 2-to-1 odds on Essential Quality. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only. If you want to gamble your money at the dog track, at the casino, at the horse track, that is up to you. I'm not telling not telling you what to do. I'm telling what I'm going to do. So we'll see what happens.
I bet to finish every time.
Right? It's a good bet. It's easy bet. I almost want to do it for both, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about doing it for both.
I don't speak the lingo.
No? Oh, you messing with me?
I am.
Really? Well, so, I mean.
I was using more dating terms.
Oh, okay.
I bet. Netflix and shit.
I bet to finish. You stuck that one right by me. I was like intrigued. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Chad's talking about, he sees the logic behind picking first, second, or third. You don't have to win the race. You can just place. And Chad just sliding it right underneath my radar, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even know he was making a joke. And now I got to figure out how I'm going to do what?
I'm like a humor viper. I just come in all subtle. You don't see it coming.
Sneaky.
Then you're crying that it happened and hoping that you don't die. That kind of shit. So when it comes to this, I really don't bet. I don't gamble or anything like that. But I'm not saying that I won't be in the environment to play around. So I did propose it last time that Joshua and I actually do a live video from the horse track. So I'm going to continue to push that because it's really just waiting for Joshua to say yes. And then, we play hooky from work and go.
Right. Yeah. I'll have to talk to the missus. She was making it a date night, date day.
Oh, look at that! I'm third wheel, and I appreciate you guys accepting me. It's awesome. I'll carry the nachos. I'll tell you that you're pretty.
Right?
Whatever.
Hold the dress.
I'll drink my High Life.
Hey, they might have it there. Beer's pretty cheap there. It's a great beer.
All right. So we got the gambling itch, apparently. Now, if you do feel that you yourself have a gambling problem or you can't seem to make your bills because you do need to get over to the old horse track or 7-Eleven for a scratch off or whatever the hell the problem is, get help and don't become a burden on your family. There's my PSA.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. It's a problem. People bet some crazy stuff, Chad. You know what? People probably bet on if Trump's going to run for president or not in 2024. I'm sure there's a bet out for that because as of today, Trump said, this is exactly what President Trump said, he is 100% thinking about running in 2024. Now, I'm not a super smart guy, but when someone says, I'm 100% thinking about running in 2024, that means you're running in 2024 And also,
maybe, or just thinking about it for real. He's a hell of a salesman, man.
And then also, Chad, his possible VP candidate could be none other than Ron DeSantis.
Oh,
Yep.
Oh, if that happens.
It's a real possibility.
I need to change my patriotic pants. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, who's going to actually, we'd have to start working on figuring out who the hell is going to cover Florida, because we really can't let Florida become Venezuela. It needs to say Floor America. Sorry, I have, my puppies are running loose.
I mean, if Ron DeSantis gets reelected next year in 2022, that would put him 2 years into his second term as governor during the presidential election. I mean, he could still run, I suppose, as president, but then we'd have to figure out who would then cover the governor position in Florida. But I think they would make a great team. I mean, DeSantis has the same mannerisms that Trump has. He has that same enthusiasm, kind of no bullshit type personality. And Trump has, obviously, that to 1,000. But I think they make a good team. I think there's some good checks and balances there, almost like Pence was for Trump. Pence was really selected just to cover Trump's ass, so to speak, I guess you would say. He was really, I mean, his wife picked Pence to run with him because of that, how calm nature he is. So it'd be interesting to see DeSantis and Trump run together.
I would definitely love to see DeSantis run with Trump. Could you imagine though, had DeSantis run with Trump the first time in 2016 or 2015, how that would have been? Like, DeSantis was kind of an unknown at that moment, at least as far as I was aware of. But I could see like them using Pence like to be that cool, calm, and like supposedly the calm for Trump. Now we know that, yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to have much more of a political career ever again.
Yeah.
But
True.
yeah, but DeSantis on the other hand, good Lord, man. Like that would be like a 1776 moment for all of us, because he would just go in and fix everything. You know, as we're getting, and you know what's even crazier about it? I think they would even be able to fix the economy after the current administration destroys it. Now, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably should just check in with Biden addressing both sides of Congress. That happened, what was that, 2 days ago, Wednesday? Yeah, so it happened on the 28th. Oh, yeah, that was horrible, absolutely horrible. And that man is trying to push some serious, ridiculous ideas. Oh, but I can imagine that Trump and DeSantis would be able to fix it, even if it was horrible. It's just, he knows how to make business happen. So, hey, he's got most people's attention just simply by saying, "Are you thinking about it?" I'm 100% thinking about it. Okay. Just leaves that vague statement, you know? So, all right. So we have that possibility. Could you imagine had like, you know, the guy that was running against DeSantis, where we would be right now?
Oh gosh, we'd be like New York or Michigan. We'd be like California.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it would be as bad as California, but I do think that it would be more like Michigan. Michigan, definitely. New York, very much so. As far as the restrictions go, as far as the behaviors, he might have been more like Gavin Newsom. Cuomo, he would not have been as outspoken as Cuomo by any means. But still, point of it is how bad the states would actually be right now, and how bad the state Florida would be right now. We would be looking at Texas as being one of the only states that's actually still part of the free country. And I look at it like we have the free country, which is the few states that are still.
See, even they agree.
Yeah, they don't like the idea either. Yeah, I'm not raising fighter dogs, by the way. This is not a Michael Vick or Michael Bolton trained dog fighting ring or anything of that nature. They're just out there celebrating themselves. So
Friday, and you know, Trump's got a lot of money, man. He's already got $80 million for a campaign. That's how much he's collected since he's left office for a future campaign run. So he's got a lot of backing. Obviously, he has his own personal backing, but elections can be very, very expensive no matter how rich you are. So it's very important to have some kind of donation, some kind of campaign fund that when you run, you have funds to run the campaign. So to already have 80 mil and roughly 80 mil in cash ready for a campaign, and I'm 100% thinking about it, you know that he's gearing up. And you think that 2020 was crazy with election year. If that does happen and he runs again, oh, it's going to be 10x. It'll be just like the past election, but probably 20 times worse.
Well, with all of the voter ID things that they're trying to get through, so we get rid of voter ID and ability to recognize votes. So with that happening and the illegal aliens crossing the border, I really don't want to call them the undocumented, fucking liberal bullshit. But so with the undocumented illegal aliens coming through and the voter ID things, they just need bodies to turn in the ballots. That's it. And with the mail-in ballots, you don't even need bodies. Do mail dumps, which unfortunately the post office being more aligned with the ridiculous and radical administration we have right now, they wouldn't even have to bring it anywhere. Just pull the truck up and unload it. Unfortunately, that seems to be kind of the possibilities that we may face coming soon. So as far as that goes, there's definitely the idea like how much it would fire us up as a country to see DeSantis and Trump running 2024. And what that would do is like I went that direction to talk about like the illegals are undocumented and the voter ID laws, because that's going to be a big blue push. Now, they're doing it because they're strategizing so that they have easier elections moving forward, to the point they have complete and total control. And then if a Republican were to win, or anybody else, predominantly it's just Republicans versus Democrats, because the other parties are so small, they really don't make a big difference. But with the others, it would be a one-off, and it'd be a shock if a Republican wins when they have that kind of system set up. They're trying to make DC a state for a reason. They're trying to give voting rights to Puerto Rico and the islands, which I don't know when they're going to get to that specifically, but they are working on DC right now. And then the illegal immigrants coming over, they will have the ability to turn in ballots. And who are they going to give it to? They're going to be told that Republicans are bad, they're racist, they hate them, they don't want them here. And they're going to say, we love you, we're going to give you everything. We were the ones that fought to make sure you had stimulus money, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be likely they're going to vote blue. So it may get to the point that total numbers of ballots cast could still be like, we may end up having 500 million ballots cast by frickin' 2024. Now, leave it to the way that the Democrats cheat. I could see that happen. Now, I'm being facetious to the most part. They're not going to actually put that many out there, but I could definitely see far more people voting than what's registered, as we did just see back in November 3rd. So, all right.
What's funny is that no one really cares about that. Like, the people that I've talked to about this issue, it's like it completely goes over their head. Think about that. Like, more people voted in the state of Pennsylvania than there were registered voters.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That means that we have an issue with our election system. And the whole point is to trust our election system. So I don't understand how all of these election procedures that have been coming forth from the Republican Party are making people so upset. We should have security in our elections. This is a good thing. Now, there's been some accusations made that they're more targeted to certain individuals. We have a previous episode, we discussed all that, and I feel that we proved that that's just simply not the case, and that this is, in a sense, the Democratic Party throwing a hissy fit because some Republicans are pushing through some election laws that could hinder them from doing things that they're used to do, right? Or used to all the time they do. And there's always election fraud, even if it's on both sides. Every single election has election fraud. And still, it drives me insane that we're still at this point right now. With all the advances in technology we have, we still somehow let voter election fraud from both sides slip through the cracks. You like that?
That, my friends, is my therapy whenever I start thinking about the yeah, I want to cheat, and don't you dare try to stop us from cheating. Yeah. No, there's going to be some crazy ass shit that's going to happen here in the near future, but I think that America is going to be a very changed country come 2024. The agendas that are running right now, and what we see overall, this out of control spending, these very biased and racist policies that are being pushed through, and I say racist because of the fact that it's actually race driven, it's separating people based off of their racial background. Just because it happens to be white people, that has them say, oh, it's not racist then. Well, you start giving priority to people to get specific loans and supports and things like that are based off of the fact of whatever their racial background is. That's racist. I don't give a shit what anybody else says, or what the what the hell was her name? The blatant racist woman that wrote White Fragility. She's an absolute idiot. Absolute idiot. So anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail now, because I'm going to get lost. I'm going to get lost in it, and then I'll probably get a little pissy, and I'll throw a fit. I won't actually throw a fit. I'll throw a man fit, not a liberal fit, which is the baby sounds. Yeah. So you know what? Screw it. I'm done with this topic.
I mean, you're right. They're printing so much money as we speak, Chad. Bitcoin's up 6.62%. Like, there's a reason why all this kind of crypto is continuing to pop and pop and pop as we move into this year. And it's because all this massive spending that we're doing as a country. As a country, we spend a lot, right, on a lot of different things. one of our favorite things to spend money on is like recreational activities, shows, even sporting events.
Weed.
So
Whatever.
yesterday, Chad, I know you're not a sportsman. You enjoy sport, but you're not a watcher of sport. Yesterday was the NFL draft. And like I said earlier, NFL draft, I can't remember the last time I've missed the first pick in the NFL draft. It's been a long time. As a football fan, it is, even if my team is not picking near the top or there's a very meaningful player that's going to my team, I still always make a point to watch it. So yesterday was a draft, and it was a draft just like 2021 was going to serve up. I mean, in my humble opinion, so many teams reached on some freaking players. It was reach, Chad. I mean, across the table, just reaching for that tomato. You know what I mean? Just reaching. For example, let's jump into it. We got the
Like
third
actually drafting Kaepernick or whatever the hell is his name.
Yeah, just reaching. It didn't make sense. Like the
You know
first.
what? I just somebody's going to disrupt my team instead of play. But let's pay him a lot of money because people like him. No, we don't.
Just reaching. Colin Kaepernick.
What the hell? I'm just throwing out all kinds of crazy ass names. Kaepernick.
Right. The first pick, Chad, was Trevor Lawrence. So everyone who's a football fan listening knows who Trevor Lawrence is. We kind of all knew that was going to be the pick. Great player. Completely agree with it. Then we had three quarterbacks drafted 1, 2, 3. First time since 1999 that three quarterbacks have been picked with the top three picks. The third pick was the 49ers. And, Chad, they picked this kid. He's 20 years old. Third pick in the draft. 20 years old. He's only played 19 games of college football. 19, Chad. And he's a runner. And he played in FCS, which is it's still really, really high quality football, but it's below what like the Alabamas and the Floridas, all the big schools below the BCS is what they call it. So 19 games, Chad. So let's say you're an NFL owner, Chad. You own a team. Would you bet the house at least the next 4 to 5 years on a player who only started 19 games in FCS college football, and 2 seasons he played like 1 game, and then another season he played 2 games. So in reality, he's had 1 full season, and you're betting millions and millions and millions of dollars on this kid to take your team to the promised land. Are you going to bet on him? Are you going to take him?
You can fuck that sky high.
Yeah, you can fuck that sky high. All right. Yeah. Well, maybe they're just running out of options.
Could be.
Perhaps, like, you know what? They're running their draft, and everybody's like, you know what? I'm ashamed to play football now. And they're like, I'm out. I don't want to do it. And then they're just not available to the draft. They're like, hey, so we're thinking about drafting and put you back on the draft. You ready for you ready to get out there? Nah, I think I'm going to go be a greeter at Walmart because this is a bunch of bullshit now. I have no respect when I go to the field.
Some of them are doctors. Like, I like to see the statistics on if football's actually had a drop in participation. I would assume it would, since the CTE and all the kind of new studies have come out about how the danger that football can bring. I know a lot of people that have kids, and they say they're not going to let their kids play football because of the CTE scares. So that would be interesting to see if there is a drawback or a lack of participation in the NFL and in football as a whole. But there's, we have the Patriots who drafted Mac Jones from Alabama. And Chad, I can't remember the last time. The last good quarterback to play in the NFL that was from Alabama was probably Joe Namath, and he was suspect. Go look at Joe Namath's numbers. We see him on the Medicare commercial, and we see him in all these movies. If you look at his stats, man, Joe would be ass in the NFL now. He wouldn't even be a starter. So Alabama, if you don't know, Chad, I hate the University of Alabama. Hate them.
No,
so,
somebody from Georgia.
Auburn. I'm an Auburn fan. So Auburn Alabama's our enemy. That is the enemy. So I have no problem talking shit about an Alabama player. I'm sorry if you're an Alabama fan.
Alabama.
Right? You beat our ass every year, so at least I can run my mouth and you can actually win on the field. But nonetheless, I don't like the Alabama player. That's the first time the Patriots have picked a quarterback in the first round since 1991, Drew Bledsoe. So just a crazy, crazy draft, Chad.
Well, I got a story to tell. now I'm going to tell the story after you're done with this. Yeah. So once you're done, I'll share the story, and it's not one that puts a beautiful light where people are like, oh, Chad's so awesome. Nope. You're like, God, I think Chad may actually have brain injuries. They're not CTEs though.
Right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm done. It was decent. I didn't stay up. I probably watched the first 10 picks. I mean, now they've shortened down the time, I'm pretty sure, in between picks, but sometimes the draft can be unwatchable. So once it came time after the first 10 picks and kind of the big guys were gone, I just checked out and watched Ozark. You know, I'm a little bit more interested in that than the NFL draft. But it was cool. I always have to watch the first pick, like I said.
You know, you checked out a lot like Congress did on Wednesday when they were listening to Biden talk.
Yeah.
Like, can I get a fucking nap right now? I mean, Pelosi, but that's expected. She can't. If she's not shit-faced drunk, she's probably napping. And then Kamala over there daydreaming about whatever Kamala's daydream about. Yeah, while she's sleeping. Probably Biden having an aneurysm and she's stepping up. I'm the first black woman president. All right. So my little story about Alabama.
Story time.
Actually, here's the really fun part. So my mother was moving from Brooksville, where we grew up, to Indiana. Evansville, little town, you know, some great folk. Actually, not a very small town. It's a pretty good size. But anyway, so they were leaving, or she was moving up there. So we had this big ass Penske truck, right? Things loaded up. You know, we've got her car on a dolly. We got the whole damn thing loaded up. You know, it's my brother, Craig, my younger brother, and one of my childhood friends, Jesse. So we get loaded. The truck's good to go. Mom's gone. She'd already, like, she's left already. She was up in Indiana helping take care of my grandparents, you know, and just kind of spending time with them because they were in the latter years, actually towards the end of their life. So they go, she's gone. So we get all loaded up and stuff and we take off. And I tell my younger brother, you know, as far as like how to drive it and all this. So we had some like learning experiences, a lot like Forrest Gump kind of things, you know, those, or What's Eating Gilbert Grape, just wholesome, you know, country style, just loving moments, you know. So we're driving along, it starts raining. It's raining so hard, you know, and Craig's the one driving at the time. And I was like, you know what, Craig, whenever you're running something this big and you get up to speed, you're going to want to try to look for the grooves. I was giving him some tips on how to operate this large, you know, vehicle. So not that has a whole lot of value to the story, but I feel like I'd say it anyway or share it. So we get up to the state line and I've been holding my bladder for an hour at this point. Oh, and we'd been slamming energy drinks and stuff. And back then it was Jolt Cola. It was even before Red Bull was released. So we're slamming Jolt Colas to stay awake. And Jolt, I want to see some of that advertising money. Okay, buddy? All right. So we're drinking these damn things. I've got about an hour's worth beyond what I should have been holding it for. Probably giving myself some, you know, some stretch marks on my bladder. We get to this gas station. Go inside. It's this little country store type gas station. I rush to the bathroom. Craig and Jesse are like off and they're like picking some snacks and stuff. And, you know, and the next thing, you know, like we get over to like, I'm sorry, not we go over, whatever. I'm adding extra words here. Go to the bathroom. I open up the door. I don't give a damn what's in there. But there's nobody in there. All right, let's just make sure it's clear. I go in. I start relieving myself. And let's just face it. There's almost nothing better in the world at that moment than that, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm going like back to the horse race thing. I'm going like a horse, just going and just, it's loud, it's obvious, all this. And I'm just,
pure boy.
Head's back, just ecstasy, right? And then I bring my head down and I look off to the corner and I level off my eyes on this long stick. And this damn stick goes all the way up. It's like 2 feet from the ceiling, maybe 3 feet from the ceiling.
Was it in the ground?
It's weird. It's like it's a stick just leaning against the wall. I'm like, that's weird. There's this really long ass stick. it's not like a wooden stick like you get from a tree. It is it's a manufactured pole,
Like a walking stick.
wooden pole. Yeah, kind of like a broomstick or something, but it's long, significantly longer. So I go and I was like, holy crap, because this is like I was like, this is the first time being in Alabama. You know, it's crazy, right? I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. So it's like, first time there, and then immediately I go in the bathroom and I see something that's different than what you see in Florida. Now, mind you, I'm like 19 years old, 20 years old at this time. So I'm like, all right, well, what is this thing? I look down at the floor because I already looked at the ceiling and saw it's like just feet from the ceiling. I look down at the floor and it's a plunger.
Mm.
I had a plunger on like a 6-foot pole. So I'm like, well, that's freaking ridiculous. Like, who's got a plunger on a 6-foot pole? It's like, one, now that I'm an adult, I'm like, that was just probably a germaphobe that did it. But so I come out of the bathroom feeling like amazing, right? Because I'm no longer dealing with this expanded bladder. And then I go over to my brother and Jesse, and so Craig and Jesse are standing at the register waiting to cash out. And I'm like, you guys wouldn't believe this. I was like, the first time in Alabama, and I'm already seeing things that are different. They're weird. They're strange, you know? I was like, they've got like an 8-foot pole in there on a freaking plunger. I was like, they have plungers like that here in Alabama. Up in Florida, we got like a 3-foot, maybe 2.5 feet or something like that, you know, that we're working our toilets with. And up here, man, it's like they're trying to play like Texas envy or something.
They got lions in the bathroom in Alabama, Chad. A lion can pop out of that urinal at any time. You can't plunge a toilet with a mere 2-foot handle with a lion in the bathroom. Okay.
So as I'm like sitting there saying this, and I'm like, you know, feeling like, yeah, you know, these Alabamians, they're something else, man. This is crazy. You know, not that it's really crazy, but I'm kind of like, you know, it's been a long time in the truck at this point. And so I'm like, you know, talking all this crap. Next thing I go over and we go to leave. And I just remember to this day, the look on that guy's face whenever we went to leave. This guy was looking at me like I was the dumbest person in the world. And I just took that like, look, it's proof. I don't understand the ways of Alabama. All right. So get out in the truck. We get all loaded up and we just start driving. We're eating snacks and stuff. Well, I noticed a road sign as we were headed down the road. It was another 20 or maybe within 20 miles. Notice this road sign as we're riding along. And as we're getting closer, I'm like, oh, that's a state sign. As we get closer and closer, there's a peach on it. And then there's Georgia written across it. The guy was looking at me like I was a freaking idiot because I was in Georgia, not Alabama.
That's funny. You probably cut up through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
I made a big point out of making, like, I even like over pronunciated Alabama, right? I had a little bit of that Southern jowl to it, you know, all of it. And it's Georgia. And the guy's like, yeah, the guy, I can only imagine what he's thinking. This guy's an idiot. This guy absolutely is what Florida has to offer.
What we used to, there was a name in the Civil War. People that came to Florida from, I probably can't say it. I'll get canceled. I know.
You talking about Yankees and Rebels?
No, not Yankees and Rebels. It was like carpetbaggers. Came from the North and South. That's kind of, you know.
The Pinkertons and the carpetbaggers. Yeah. Okay. All right. Little history. Everybody's going down history lane with us today.
Little history. Like I don't consider Florida the South. I don't know about you guys. As someone who's, you know, I lived in Alabama, pretty much born and raised in Georgia. I did live in New Jersey for a few years. So I have kind of lived in a few different places. By far, Florida is my favorite state I've ever lived in. But it's a melting pot down here. We got people from Michigan. We got California. We got Georgia. We got Floridians. It's a melting pot. But when you go to like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, I consider that the South. I feel like It has a lot of Southern qualities to it, especially when you get closer to the Florida-Georgia line. But it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more a mix of Northern and Southern, I guess, cultures. I guess you could say, because if I really know that there's a big difference between living in the North and living in the South. It has nothing to do with race, just a culture of living. When I lived in New Jersey, people who live in New Jersey are a lot different than people who live in the South. The life's different. Things are faster. There's less friendliness. It's more to the point, like, let's go, you know, time is of the essence in the North, which is kind of similar to Florida. This place is actually pretty fast compared to some other parts of the South. But there is a massive difference between, I can tell when someone's from the South almost instantly, and I can tell when someone's from the North almost instantly.
Yeah, the different types of jowls, right? Like the Southern jowl, there's actually more than one. I think that the last I saw there was like 16 or something like that. It's ridiculous, but it all has its own. What's that?
I'll test you. Here's a good example between the North and the South. If I tell you when you hear this, you'll be like, oh yeah, definitely. Do you wave to people when you drive by them, Chad?
Yeah, it's a Southern thing.
Yes, it's the biggest Southern thing ever. When we first moved to New Jersey, we would be waving at people as we drove by them, and you would have thought that we were like flicking them off or something. It was like, oh, what is this person doing, communicating friendly gestures to me as I drive by? That is definitely a Southern thing for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. There's all kinds of stuff. I also love a lot of the colloquialisms or a lot of the little like Southern slangs and then statements and things like, you know, bless your heart. And I do believe I got me a case of the Vipers.
Or y'all. Y'all is my favorite word. I'll never.
Yeah, but I hear y'all all over the place. Y'all is no longer just a Southern thing. I've heard it from Northerners. I've heard it from people on the West Coast. You name it. I've heard y'all everywhere.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America. The South keeping it going. Y'all is. It works with everything. You can use it with everything.
Yeah.
Ain't. Do you say ain't? Ain't's a Southern thing.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of ain't, but that was because I'm a bit pompous and pretentious at times about a specific language. I'm very familiar with ain't. No. Yeah. That ain't right. Now I gotta tell you, now when I went to church on Sunday, Pastor said, I see you in the back. You coloring. It screwed me up. I even dropped my damn freaking crayon.
Here's another good
Lord
one.
don't get you. Yo, come on up here before the devil gets you, because Jesus is coming.
Here's another good one. So, what do you call soda? What's your name for soda?
Soda.
So, when you think soda, what's the first thing you think?
Yeah, I think it's not like I'm a literalist. So if I say Coke, I mean Coke. That's it. Pepsi, I mean Pepsi. You know, soda would just be kind of like what you got. You know, but no, I get absolutely. So for the audience, what do Northerners call soda?
Right, pop. Freaking pop. I hate that crap. That's my biggest pet peeve that is a Southern term, pop. But in the South, it's just Coke. You just call it Coke because Pepsi, I mean, they're here, but not really. Coke dominates the South. Obviously, their headquarters in Atlanta. They just dominate the South. So anytime I think soda, it's Coke. And once I went up to New Jersey for a couple years, it was there wasn't Chick-fil-A there, Chad. I'm not lying. When I moved to Florida in 2016, this is how Southern I am. I was scared because I didn't know that Chick-fil-A had moved outside of Georgia yet. Because there was a time where there were no Chick-fil-A's outside of Georgia. And by the way, United States, you're welcome. I know. Everyone knows they're the best fast food place. You're welcome.
It's chicken. All right.
What is it?
That's why it's so delicious. It's so delicious. It's the new body of Christ. Yes. You know, the Catholics have got, the what is that? The Eucharist or the Eucharist? Ukuleleist. Yeah, they got the Eucharist. Christians and pretty much all of Christianity has Chick-fil-A. Every time I take a bite, I'm non-religious, but as soon as I take the bite, I'm like, body of Christ. Yep. Oh, this is so good.
Jesus, he is real. Every time you bite into a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So yeah, there's a lot of big differences between the North and the South. I could personally, I've told many people I'll never live north of Georgia, like never. I'll probably never leave Florida. But speaking of Florida, Chad, we did have something that happened actually pretty close to home. Not going to tell you exactly where Chad and I live. We live in the Tampa Bay to speak area, but pretty close to us over in Winter Haven in Polk County a couple days ago. Actually, I think it was yesterday. there was a drug bust in Winter Haven, Florida. And when I mean drug bust, I mean $53.8 million worth of methamphetamines, worth of guns. Oh yeah, big money. And all connected to the, Danielle tried to tell me how to say it earlier in Spanish, and I'm not going to be able to do it. I've been practicing Spanish, Chad, but I'm working my R rolls are just trash, absolute garbage. So I'm going to call them the Juarez Mexican drug cartel. So a major cartel in Mexico was actually busted pretty close into our backyard.
Wow. Well, I was about to say that you were going to talk about Walter White. You know,
This make Walter White look like a biatch. I mean, let me run through it. Okay, we got 24 pounds of THC edibles, 2.4 pounds of marijuana,
well, there goes my order.
1,500 pounds of methamphetamine worth $53.8 million, 2,500 bars of Xanax, 20 firearms, and 5 vehicles.
Jesus.
Yeah. The cartel, we've been watching Ozark pretty nonstop lately. So we have become, if you haven't watched Ozark, have you watched it? Have you watched Ozark before?
Oh yeah, Jason Bateman's the man in that. I gotta tell you what, I feel like he's a brother. That's right.
When we saw this, I was like, oh dang, like the cartel's here. And it's actually really good points are brought up in that show that I guess we can segue a little bit into this topic.
Well, Netflix better give us some money.
Right? Netflix, you better kick it back. So I've heard a lot of arguments lately, especially when it comes to drugs in our society. And not to say I agree or disagree, but there are some interesting debates that could be had to whether or not we should just make drugs completely legal and tax them and regulate them.
Like Oregon?
Do you know what I mean? And then to cut out the cartel completely so they really don't have. I mean, think about it. That's $53.8 million of our money that an illegal operation has solely based on the fact that the products they sell are illegal. So if we were to regulate it as a country and we were to make it to where we actually make tax dollars, we make that 53 million off of it instead of an illegal drug operation that kills hundreds of thousands of people, then we would pretty much cut the head off the monster.
Well, the cartel makes money in a lot of ways. Drugs, trafficking,
big head though.
Weapons, things like that. So it's pretty much everything that the Democrats want the United States to, I mean, the sex trafficking or the human trafficking, obviously nobody wants that crap, but it seems to be getting through the border and nobody wants to talk about the crisis there. So whatever. But the weapons, so we get disarmed as legal firearm carriers and or licensed individuals carrying firearms or concealed carry, all the rest of that. Just owning firearms in general, they would rather us not own them from everything you see as far as what they're doing. And then obviously the war on drugs. So money going in from firearms, drugs, and trafficking. If they take away the drugs by legalizing it, we obviously are going to get more users if we did legalize it overall. Some people will see the long-term consequences and likely not want to ever experiment because they've watched a family member decay, like some people that had an alcoholic parent watching their parent be, dysfunctional and then realize that they don't ever want to be that way. Therefore, they never drink. There's people that do that or see their parents or family or somebody that they care about fall into the depths of a drug addiction and then say, I'm never going to do it. So I think that there would be some leveling off that takes place. But ultimately, though, people are going to do whatever they feel they want to do, no matter whether it's legal or not. It's just how much do they want to do it. Murder is illegal, but people still do it. Stealing is illegal, but people still do it. Speeding is illegal, but people still do it. It's these variables. People are going to do what people do. I would say that right now we have the perfect opportunity to find out just how dysfunctional a society will be by legalizing drugs. And that's, again, it's Washington. Is it Washington? No, it's Oregon. Oregon legalized drugs. Oh, there's no, yeah, all of them. all drugs, hard drugs, you name it. It's not illegal at the state level. It's still federally illegal. So if it's a federal officer that is pursuing you, you're not getting off of the state level policing, which the state level police, they find it, they don't do anything about it. So, so as far as that goes, that's that part. But on the other side of it, I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. It has nothing to do with drugs.
Well, I guess in a sense, like I said, I'm not really for this, but it is an interesting debate. At least we wouldn't have to worry about fentanyl being put in so much drugs, because when you go and buy them, you know they're from an actual credible source that I'm sure the FDA would have some, I mean, I assume in this hypothetical situation that they would have some kind of say as far as production and distribution. But it's tough when you look at it on both sides. Because like you said, I mean, if you make it more expensive, right, that's one way to kind of help that transition of making it legal, is you make it more expensive. Only people that, I guess, in a sense, kind of, I don't know how to put it, like maybe they have a little bit more disposable income that they'd be able to afford to continue to do it. And those that don't, that are maybe at more poverty level, who I feel like really gets the blunt end of the negative side effects of this drug, would have to cut back, so to speak. But then again, you could always say there's always going to be legal people doing it as well, even if it's legal. So it's like a slippery slope. It's the drug problem in this country, the war on drugs. It's kind of a sham, to be honest with you. For example, like in 2008, when the financial market crashed, the only thing that really saved the U.S. economy was drug money inside the banks. That's what kept us from almost a complete economical collapse, was all of the cartel and drug money that is filtered through our bank system, washed. And we talk about we're doing this war on drugs, but then we see examples like that. So it shows you that people are getting greased along the way. Drugs are here for a reason. There's people's pockets that are getting fatted up in Washington that know the drugs are coming in, that know all this illegal activity is coming in from the cartel. And yeah, those are the people we got to get out. We have to, you always got to cut the head off the monster. It's the only way. And the thing actually I heard on the radio the other day, someone discussed the cartel, and they said that's the number one thing that cartel is so good at, is that once you change something, they can instantly adapt to it right afterwards. You cut one head off and two more grow back. They're really, really good at figuring out ways around certain laws that are put in. And does that, I don't know why, maybe it's organization, maybe it's intel, but I mean, they're in our backyard, Chad.
Yeah. Now, it's fascinating to see, because you do have other baseline values that actually are gateways. They've been calling marijuana a gateway drug since well before I was even born. So that drug's gotten a bad rap, or that particular plant has gotten a bad rap. But you get with things that are like, you have opioids, right? You get things that like, oxycodone and shit like that. These drugs are highly addictive, and doctors typically don't spend a whole lot of time working on trying to find other alternatives or be more responsible with the way that they prescribe. Not necessarily saying every doctor by any means. A lot of times they don't have the time to sit and actually speak with a person, because they need to move on to the next one, because insurance says we're cutting your pay, or they're trying to pay off their student loans and get ahead, as they've felt the promise has been there since they started, before even starting medical school, about being a doctor. So they don't spend a whole lot of time with their clients or their patients. So we have doctors prescribing things that they're really not being responsible for. And as soon as they get cut off on their prescription, or they say you can't get any more because we're controlling it, it's a controlled substance, and you've already had whatever, so you got to wait for another couple of weeks before you can get more, however long, then they look to the street to find what they need. So that can be it's one caveat. Is it a big caveat? Not necessarily, but we have a lot of ways for people to get to that point. There's plenty of things that people do that are illegal they don't ever get caught for. Some of those things give way to a human behavior that have them take on more risky behaviors. They didn't get caught for the last one, so try this one. Gateway behavior. So there's a lot of different things in that sense. One of the Facebook people also, one of the Facebook people actually just brought up the doctors being more responsible. So I agree with her completely on that. All right. So as far as that goes, we're going to have to actually break away from our Facebook Live portion and focus mainly on the remainder of the episode that is on Rumble and YouTube under Waking the People. So with that, we love y'all, and I want y'all to, stay safe out there. All right. And if you do find yourself falling or needing to fall asleep and you're kind of worried about becoming more dependent on melatonin, just tune into a Biden speech and you'll be sleeping like a baby in no time. All right. So with that, even if it pisses you off, 15 minutes worth of him drumming on, and he drums on worse than I do, let's face it, then tune into that. But if not, you want to tune into something that's a bit more informative and likely more entertaining, which I'm going to toot my own horn and say, yes, we are. Find us on Waking the People on YouTube and Rumble. So we love you. Sir Chad Everett Brochures. That's Joshua the Kraken, your patriot, the guy that Prince sings about, McClendon. And with that, deuces.
Rogan just like rolls into it. It just happens.
Yeah.
That's the
like
best
you're
thing.
saying, just hit it.
Just hit it. Just hit it. I mean, yeah, but you're right. Doctors are they're not very responsible with this opioid stuff. Even when I have surgeries, I've only had a few surgeries in my life. My mom would take those prescriptions away from me. The oxycodons, the hydrocodons, they have a generic name. I forget the generic name, but all that stuff is not good news. And I feel like they give it to people who sometimes are obviously in extreme pain, but they don't understand the long-term ramifications of taking an opioid nonetheless, but also having a medical professional telling you, oh, you hurt your leg and this is going to help you get through it. You just take this and you just rest. And next thing you know, for 2 weeks, you've missed work and you're on bed rest and you take this synthetic heroin for 14 days straight. And now you don't know how to operate it without it. And yeah, it's a slippery slope.
But I know of several people in my life that I've lost. So just before the opioid epidemic picked up or really skyrocketed,
do you know when
there was a guy that,
before we go, you know when it actually started? This is going on for a long time. This is another thing the media doesn't portray, or maybe even they're not aware of it. The opioid epidemic has been going on since the Civil War. So during the Civil War, we didn't have any anesthesia. So they had methadone that they'd give you when you were having the operation. But when you left, like they would just, you would just get your leg cut off. You'd have morphine to get you through the actual operation. But then they would just send your ass home with wounds that were open and bleeding. There was no alcohol. There was no disinfectant knowledge whatsoever. And the only way you could operate in your life is through heroin and through opioids to dull the pain and just go through it. Yeah.
So go hang out in the opium den, baby.
This has been around for a long time. And like I said, so many people are getting greased that they just allowed it to go on. I didn't mean to cut you off, Chad, but a lot of people don't get that this is the opioid epidemic has been going on for a long time. And to a sense, we've kind of been the contributor to why the problems continued.
What's that, Corn Pop? Oh, he's still not talking while we're recording. He just looked up when we were talking about the opium dens and stuff. So yeah.
Hey,
Corn Pop.
He's 10 years clean today, actually, I think. Why don't we give a round of applause for Corn Pop?
No, he said he's not.
Dang it.
Come on, dude. Yeah, he actually pulled his pockets out to show he doesn't even have a coin anymore. Hey, come on, man. We got to be role models on this show. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Keep it family ready. All right. Maybe not, but still fucking Corn Pop. All right. All right. So we do have a lot there as far as like, what can we address? When should we address it? How do we address it? A lot of people get alienated whenever they go through those types of addictions, and it's a really sad situation. And we as a country need to do a better job. But the story I was going to tell you, as far as before mainstream media really started to push out, the fact that the opioids were out of control, there was one of the neighborhood kids. I was actually one of their friends or whatever. We were neighborhood acquaintances, friends, kind of, whenever we'd sleep over occasionally at each other's houses. But our parents also knew each other. Well, this particular family, the father hurt his back. Minor injury, by the way. Now that I have the education I have, I could have actually done a lot with the guy. But because they didn't do anything with him, they just kept prescribing drugs and not physical therapy and getting him through corrective exercise. They just kept prescribing, and he didn't know he had options. He thought as soon as he hurt his back, there was no way of correcting it through exercise or at least reducing the discomfort. So he was taking his prescribed medication. He would drink with my dad, stuff like that occasionally. Nobody could keep up with the old man on my side, but still he would drink with him, whatever. Nothing major, not enough, in my opinion, to necessarily, kill his liver. But he needed to take a little bit more. And over the course of years, he got to the point that he had to take so much that one morning he and his wife were laying in bed. He went to get up to get ready for work. And as soon as he got up, he fell into the wall. He looked at his wife as he was like getting up and starting to like lose his balance. As he was just before he fell, he looked at his wife and he goes, "Something's not right." Fell into the wall. He said she called the ambulance, all of that. He died from it. And
was it like cirrhosis of the liver or something?
Liver failure? I don't know exactly if it was liver failure or what exactly, but it was because of the drugs that he was taking. But I was so young at the time. Like, again, I was like, at that time, I was somewhere in my later teens, but I wasn't focused on that. And I didn't have much of a medical education by comparison to what I have now. So yeah, he just looked at her and said, "Something's not right," fell into the wall, and yeah, he died. So however he died from it, I don't exactly know specifically, although now that you've asked, I am curious. I don't know if he was in liver failure. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I mean, it was pretty immediate. It was very abrupt. It wasn't like it was, like he was just feeling bad for a long, long time, saw doctors and they noticed stuff. No, it wasn't like that. It was pretty quick. It was abrupt. So that's one of the things that he was a good man. He was not a drug addict. He wasn't anything like that. He would drink beer every once in a while. He worked hard. He worked his ass off. His wife worked too, but she worked a part-time job, and that's just what they did in order to raise their family. And they had several boys, and so we had our little, gang of kids that lived in the neighborhood. Oh, not like the violent gang, just like the Little Rascals kind of gang, But anyway, so that happened. There's a lot of instances, but the point of it is when people start those types of drugs and they're becoming more and more common, be aware of who's doing it and try to do what you can to support them as much as you can. Find out if they start to seem like their pain's getting worse, things like that. It's like the last thing they need is for people to abandon them, so that they start resorting to that to help with their emotional distress, not just their physical pain. So don't abandon them, people. All right, but do keep a safe distance and do what you can and research. Wow, excuse me.
Right, that little highlight kicking back in.
Yeah, baby.
It's just us as a country, even with the situation with COVID, we always prescribe the easy way out, whether it be medication, whether it be take this weight loss supplement. It's always the easy way out that people want. And I'm telling you right now, both Chad and I, work in the health and wellness industry, and your life will be much, much better if you just regulate your diet, watch your water consumption, and exercise regularly. I promise every aspect of your life will be better. Whether it's mentally, obviously physiologically, you're going to have some benefits from the exercise. Your mood's going to improve, sex drive for males, the whole nine. So,
oh, baby.
You know what I mean? Right? It's a win-win, people. So, but I guess hopefully we'll get a little bit of control of this situation that is drugs that they just sneak their way in, Chad. They sneak their way in. And,
and the cartels, they got their version, and then we got the other cartel, which is the pharmaceutical company. Did I say that? Oh, I'm going to get, shit, look at that. There's a Hillary Clinton friend request on Facebook.
You're canceled. Don't worry, I was going to cancel myself too. With the war on drugs, we're talking about it. A lot of people forget that there's a lot of laws out there, if we're talking about equality, that specifically target African Americans over Caucasians, and they were put into place by none other than your president currently right now. The 1994 crime bill was a bill that explicitly targeted the possession of crack as a higher offense than the possession of cocaine. For those who don't know cocaine is more expensive to possess than crack is. Crack's a cheaper version. And so the people who are going to be in possession of crack more often than not are going to be minority groups. So this law was specifically targeting minority groups to have their sentence to be more harsh, sometimes double the sentencings of those caught with cocaine. It all starts at the top and works its way down. And that's the stuff that they don't tell you on the news that is easy to go and look, and you can see in detail the people creating these unfair racist laws are the people on the television telling you that the others are racist.
Yep. Yeah, it's projection. You know, they're projecting, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those things that if you're a Democrat or a liberal and you hear us say these things and you notice it yourself, are you being dishonest with yourself, or are you blinded by some sort of version of optimism? Because here they are, and I firmly believe that they relish in the fact that they fooled their constituents. Because the way that they're doing everything, they just keep lying. And because they're not close enough for you, or the lie they give you is so complex, it exhausts you before you start. You don't even research, you don't look into it, you don't learn what's necessary to understand that they're telling you a line of bullshit. You know, attorneys do this kind of stuff all the time, where the language they use is such a high caliber of language. It's so infrequently used. It's not in our dialect. It's not in your colloquial dialect and in your lexicon.
I like it. I like those words, Chad. I love me some words. I'm a big word fan.
But you see, like, the average person isn't going to understand what kind of language that attorneys use. And the reason why I pick it with attorneys here is that a lot of politicians are attorneys. They've gone through law school. So you'll get these individuals that just, because they don't understand the depth of what they just heard, it sounds intelligent, or it sounds like it's infused with emotion, or it sounds like, you know, it's just structured at the right, or in the right way at the right time, and they don't understand it, so they don't look into it. But they like the tonality, the cadence, they like the inflections the person's giving them. So something that most people learn after they've been through abusive relationships and they're no longer susceptible to them is they understand how emotional manipulation presents itself. But for the average person, apparently do not understand that. You have to actually have either gone through it, or you're so skeptical you never get into it in the first place. So as far as that goes, it's an interesting thing, because here's these people talking on television. They pass these laws. They do their whatever it is that they do in front of people. They get out and speak publicly or whatever. If the person's only speaking about things that emotionally appeal to you and not logically appeal to you, you should probably separate yourself from that person. But it's so incredibly hard to understand if somebody is speaking to you rationally or emotionally when you're not prepared for recognizing it. You just fall victim to the idea that, well, it is what it is. So with that, of course, they're just going to call whenever they call.
I mean, I agree. And it's both sides of the spectrum too, Chad. You know, it's Republicans do this too, the creative language. It's both sides of the spectrum. I mean, hell, one of my favorite presidents is a Democrat, or was a Democrat, JFK, but I don't know if he identifies the president as Democrat right now. This is something that we're really seeing more so in the Democratic Party as of late, progressively moving forward with this narrative and this language, and, you know, emotion baiting and all kinds of different tactics that they're using that we really don't see the Republican Party using as much. And, you know, I have a lot of libertarian qualities to my political ideology as well. And I don't know if the world's necessarily ready for a libertarian president. I think that would be, it'd be interesting to say the least. But again, me and Chad like to reiterate that we are non-party affiliate, and we pick on the Democratic Party a lot, but because it's such a shit show. Let's be honest. Like, it's even the people who follow the Democratic Party don't even agree with the stuff they're doing. I know Democrats who have like preached like higher taxes, that now the higher taxes are coming and they're like moving out of state or moving out of country. So it's just a complete shit show. Complete shit show. It affects everything. Everything's political now. Not everyone's supposed to be political. We don't always need this shit in our lives. Like, we got other stuff we could be focusing on. But the fact that it's so idiotic, the kind of travesties that are going on in our highest level of government, that it makes everyone have to be political all the time.
You know what I feel like right now, my experience of who we currently have in the administration is, it seems like everybody who is unqualified for the job, but they got it and they're panicking and trying to figure out how to make it work. So they're just fucking giving in to whatever bullshit thing that got them into that position. So that's how I feel about it whenever I look at it. You know, we've got somebody who's like already staging us. Now, what happened with COVID, you know, that was going to affect our inflation rate to some degree.
Oh, to a big degree.
But here we are, we're talking about spending more and more money. We have to have a resource to spend money off of. And if we don't have, like, whatever that resource is that we're leveraging that money off of, will lose value with everything that's printed against it, unless the value of that thing has increased itself. Currently, what we have is not increasing in value. So if we want to be able to break free of this stuff, we have to understand, first off, you know, this money is not something that that's just pops up out of nowhere. You know, just because they print it doesn't mean that it's backed properly. So whenever we start printing money that doesn't have enough of a backing, the value of every dollar that's actually in circulation, that means what's in the bank, what's in your pocket, everything that's out there, that dollar starts losing its value than what it had previously. So that's inflation. Now, hyperinflation is whenever it grows at an exponential rate. I personally feel that we're going to likely experience, and it's a high likelihood we're going to experience, hyperinflation from what's going on from last year and then throughout the next 4 years, because we've got spending out of control. And it seems like we're spending solely for agendas that really do not have anything other than just ensuring a second term. You know, that's what they're, in my opinion, what they're trying to do. Not really trying to help.
You want to see some numbers, Chad? I got some numbers for you. Some real numbers. Okay.
Let's see them.
So this is more timber related as far as the cost of wood. So in April of 2020, the cost of
every morning that's already here. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, the product is still being delivered. Okay.
So the cost of wood. So using 2,400 broad feet or 200 square feet worth of wood in April of 2020 would cost you $936. April of 2021, the same cost for that 200 square feet of wood to build a deck, $3,696.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm putting all my money in Bitcoin, Chad, because I absolutely completely agree with you that we are headed towards hyperinflation in the near future, and I think it's going to sneak up on us. It's really scary. I'm not trying to be this apocalypse. Oh my God! I'm not trying to be that, but it's, look at the numbers. I just told you the numbers. We talked about on the show before, Chad, about the guy who called the 2008 financial crisis got canceled off of Twitter because he said the United States is headed toward hyperinflation. What are we going to do, Chad? We're going to be on the barter system. We're going to I don't even know what we're going to do. No one's going to be able to afford anything. You're not going to be able to afford chicken. Beef's going to be out of the question. Non-perishables are going to be so expensive. It's going to be like buying a T-bone steak for a can of beans.
You know, here's the thing that also we need to consider. Who's going to benefit from this overall? So what we want to do with this show is individually, every single person that listens to it, we're hopeful that one out of every person that listens will eventually see something different. You start growing and developing into something else. We want to wake you up on specific subjects. Now, with this, there's a lot here. This show is also waking things up for us, because we didn't come to this with all like in the last 4 months, going on 5 months now. We've learned a lot without even, like, we already knew what we knew before going into it, but we've had to research, we had to go through a lot of things. So right now we're focusing on inflation. If there's anything that I can say about what we're talking about right now, is that if this is in some way where you're like, you know, this gets me, but what can I do on one person? stay in communication with us, stay in communication with people in your life that you know are trying to do something, be a part of, stopping what's going on as much as you can. Voice your opinion, let people know, like, as far as the government goes, if they don't ever hear from people, or they don't hear from enough people that they're opposing their views, then they're not going to feel threatened for their seat, and they're not likely going to slow down. They're going to think silence is consent. So with that, if this is something you feel passionate about, figure out how you can contribute towards helping people break this pattern, because what I see coming is a very destructive and dangerous thing. So with that being said, that's our purpose for the show. It's not really necessarily for government. It's just whatever subject we talk about, whoever's listening, maybe it changes the perspective a little bit. Doesn't matter the subject. If it's dating, if it's going to be politics, if it's going to be business, if it's going to be, investing, if it's going to be gambling.
Mandelo, 15-1 odds, Chad. I like it, but I completely agree. It's, if it doesn't just show you that one of the, in my opinion, a basic right as a U.S. citizen, as a person, we're given certain rights, freedom of speech, or at least we used to. That's up for debate now. I'm not even sure if freedom of speech is a thing anymore, but we're given certain human rights. And I feel that the right to not have your money inflated should be a human right, that based on the work I've put into my life and the amount of money I've able to accumulate over my life, it shouldn't be devalued because of a government's activities that maybe I necessarily didn't sign up for. Now, I'm not saying I'm an anarchist, but I think the right to not have your money inflated is something that everyone should be able to agree with. That if you are earning $10 an hour right now, and you've budgeted your life on the fact that you make $10 an hour, you're able to pay your rent, car payment, etc. No matter how much money you make, you've set your life up to where your income meets the demands you have to meet to live your life. And overnight that can change, not because of actions you've taken to overspend, but because of government actions that have actually devalued the hard work and the time that you've put into whatever craft you may have. And that ultimately it's going to cost you more to live the same life. So that necessarily means it's going to make you're going to have to spend more time on it. And people don't understand that. They don't think about that. People see, I talk about crypto a lot, and that's kind of what crypto is all about. It's about the right to not have your money devalued by a centralized entity. In this case, we're talking about the United States, or all governments across the US do this. They make decisions that don't necessarily fit the people's best interests, so to speak, especially those who are trying to move ahead. I feel like everyone in the United States has a goal to ultimately better themselves, or should, and we shouldn't have our money devalued because we got people that have been in there for 40 years collecting our paycheck, and they think they know what's best for us.
Here's an interesting thing that I think that people could benefit from. Now, this may not be accurate across the board for everybody, but think about this. Let's say your money you just got, you put it in your wallet, set it down on your table, or whatever you set it down on. All right. Immediately, somebody comes over, opens the wallet, and they take 30 or 40% of whatever's in that wallet. Now, you're left with the remaining, 70 or 60%, right? Would you be upset that somebody just came over and took that money out of your wallet? Especially if they tell you, no, this is for your interest, and here's why. Now they say, well, your retirement's going to be there at your Social Security. Okay. If that's something you feel fine with, that's something you feel fine with. And they're going to say, okay, well, this is going to cover, Medicare. This is going to cover, and it's like how they're actually funding these things that are currently being offered. So if you want to have your Medicare at the time that you're entitled to it, then, you're going to say, okay, well, that's fine. But then you're going to get into other things that are you have your federal taxes. Federal taxes is going to be a lot of what they're putting into law and how much money they're spending, and that's going to be the taxpayer paying it back. Now, with the things that they're currently doing, they're putting such a tax that it's no longer just on you. You have your baby sleeping in the other room. You've made a little piggy bank. They put their little coins in for fun. They got about $1.38 in there, right? As soon as you turn around, or you've dealt with them with your wallet, find out they walk into your child's bedroom, pick up the piggy bank, and they take 30% or 40% of whatever the child owns. It's not done yet, So every time you put something in there, you put $1 in, you lose 30 cents or 40 cents off of it. So here's the thing. When they say, and anytime the government says, by the way, we just were told that we the people are the government.
Yeah, right.
Now, we were just said that Biden said that during his addressing Congress. Yeah, fucking lunatic. That is tyranny. That is an authoritarian regime that believes that. Yeah, don't think that they're going to want to leave office easy. All right, let's just say that. I'm not going to leave after 4 years. They're just not going to leave office through the voting system. So they go in, they take the money out of your kid's piggy bank, they take the money out of yours. Now they're going to be back every time you get paid. They're going to take money away from you, and they're not going to give you something in return, but they're going to tell you what they're doing in return. Some of that infrastructure, yes, will go to things like road repair, things like that. But we've got more than enough people contributing to the road repair and things like that. That's not going to be a high tax for you. Plus, by the way, you pay for road repair whenever you pay for your gas, because it's a gas tax. So all of that, everything as far as this analogy goes, you have these people coming in and you're not allowed to tell them they can't do it. So then the people that actually dictate who's taking that money out of your pocket, they're the ones that are currently seated. They call them lawmakers. Those people are the ones that propose laws that cost money. So as far as that goes, it's think about that differently than to just sit there and be like, oh, okay, well, that's not a big deal, or that's okay, I can do that, or whatever that is. Think about it differently, because it's really necessary that we do. Otherwise, you become very desensitized. That's more of what lawmakers want anyway, in my opinion. If they want bills to pass easily, they want a desensitized population, a population that's more driven to being, lethargic and stricken with malaise. You're not likely to do anything about it. You're just going to sit there and be like, oh, whatever. It's going to take a real high offense before you ever speak up. They want that kind of constituent. I'm not a fan of that myself. I will speak out. That's one of the reasons why Joshua and I do this show. So with that, there's quite a bit to consider whenever we talk about taxation. But to do it, nothing else, at least a general and low level introduction to a different way of looking at taxation. The idea that we're going to tax the rich and to propose a $4 trillion infrastructure bill, and how it's going to be paid is by taxing the rich. That's not going to happen. Think about this. Jeff Bezos is a leftist. He is the richest man on the planet. He owns Amazon. With Jeff Bezos, him being a leftist, if you've seen people complaining about Amazon, they can complain about it all they want, but they're supported by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is making sure the money's out there. When you read the Washington Post, which is a news article or news publication company that Jeff Bezos owns, that individual, they're going to write things that support the left and Democrats, the progressives. They're going to write things in the media or in the news that support them. If you think that he is not on that side, no matter how many times they say they want to tax the billionaires and the millionaires, he understands tax law and how to get through it. Bernie Sanders is not going to creep up on him in the shower, like a horror movie or anything like that. He's not going to get to him, because he knows how to run his business in a way that he's not going to pay those taxes. It's an illusion. Wall Street, for the most part, backed Biden, not Trump. Why would Wall Street, one of the wealthiest systems that we have in this country, why would they back somebody who says, I'm going to tax you more? It's because the people that are at the middle class and below don't always understand exactly what's going on in the above middle class, to the elite class and people like that. Jeff Bezos is not going to pay more in taxes. I don't care what Biden says, he's not going to. Same thing goes for a lot of them. Elon Musk, as much as I love that guy, he's not going to pay more in taxes. He understands how to run his business at that level. We have tax reasons that it doesn't happen. No matter what they say, we're going to tax them more. You know what? Tax them more if they don't pay, but we just spent $4 trillion. Let's say that every single wealthy organization picks up and gets out of the country and opens shop outside of the country and sells their goods back to us. Who's going to make them stay? You're going to tax them more, so it's actually less expensive for them to move their manufacturing and production base off-site out of the country. Companies been doing that for a long time. We're reducing our tariffs with the as far as the incoming products, the tariffs. That's going to be reduced or eliminated for certain agreements, like the transatlantic and the trans-Pacific agreements that we have. They drop off tariffs so that they can sell their goods back to the United States at a competitive rate with us, which is actually typically lower than ours because their labor costs are cheaper. And if you think that's not alarming, wait till we actually have the $15 minimum wage enforced. The tree will stop bearing fruit as fewer people are going to have jobs. And if the goods are already outpriced compared to the external or the imported goods, import's going to get the money. And then we're going to lose more jobs. And before you know it, we're going to be in depression, not a recession. And it's going to be done by way of the administration that we currently have. So Obama started that process, by the way, but he was nowhere near as aggressive as this. All right. We don't have a whole lot more time. Joshua, do you have anything else you want to say on that before we get into Uncle Chad's story time?
It's true. It's really sad, actually, because the people out there who are supposed to predominantly vote Democrat used to be more of a blue collar party, the working men's party, when the unions ran stuff. And now that's just simply not the case. It's become the elite party, the illusion that is, we're going to do all that is right for you, but don't necessarily tell you what that's going to cost you and the country as a whole. So it's another reason to look at investing your money into things that aren't money. Again, remember that US dollar that you're holding in your hand is not backed by anything. It's backed by the good faith of the United States will uphold that value. So not financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only, but consider investing your money into something other than the money itself. That way it can hold its value over time.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, let's move on to Uncle Chad's story time, and then we're going to close up after that. So this is a segment that I've considered doing for some time, but I've also been kind of reluctant to do it. I'm going to share a story about my childhood. Joshua, you ready for this?
I'm ready. Story time.
So this is a segment that I'm referring to at the moment called What's Your Take? So, all right. Whenever I actually throughout my childhood, but this one particular experience. So I had two friends over. One's name was Carl, one name was Cheney. We had a two-story house growing up. We had one room in the upstairs. The rest of the house was the base level, which is the floor or ground level. I had the upstairs bedroom, which is what my brothers previous to myself, my older brothers had that same bedroom, just simply because it was furthest away from the family and all of that. And they can kind of express their masculine development. Right. So it was my turn. So I had the upstairs bedroom. So we're up there and we're telling, little stories to each other. We're kind of going over things. We're just being like teenage guys, mid-teenage guys. At the time I was 16 years old.
Pre-cell phone, pre-social media, pre-technology.
All of that.
I don't know what that's like, Chad. I don't know what that's like. For some of our listeners, remember, before the internet, this is what normal people did. They interacted with one another.
When you actually stopped at the payphone versus ran the light because you're trying to dial your phone. All right. So we're upstairs and it's later, right? It's about 11 o'clock, 11:30. We're telling stories and just talking trash with each other, talking crap. And we're goofballs, but we're good, fun-loving guys, right? So I'm laying in my bed, which is on the furthest wall away from the door. Cheney is laying on a makeshift type waterbed that my oldest brother that had cerebral palsy, my dad made a bed for him to place as a waterbed for him. So he eventually outgrew that. They gave him a mechanical bed, all the rest of this stuff. It's not necessarily important to the story other than the fact that Cheney's on the other side of the room sleeping on this waterbed thing. And then Carl is sleeping on a couch that I had up there. It was a reclining couch. And behind Carl was the light that was our street light, and it was shining through very clearly. There's no curtain, nothing on the window. So it's shining through very clearly. Again, we're on the top floor. So it's not like it was coming straight down on Carl, but I could see it illuminating a bit as it came down towards the middle of the room as far as the light was concerned. Well, while we were just sitting there talking, just talking, I just fell asleep like that. I was like, oh God. And then I was asleep. Right. Next thing I know, I'm laying on this bed. I'm on my back. I'm covered, like the sheet is like tightly tucked in because I got it underneath my arms and I kind of like pushed them down a little bit. And my feet are right at the edge of the bed and head's on the pillow. I'm laying there. Next thing I know, the bed starts shaking. So the upper end by my head was shaking quickly. It's like pulsing, if you will. And at my feet, it was swaying. Oh, so I woke up because my foot slapped the other foot. I could feel my ankle bones hit each other. I'm like, so I wake up and immediately I go, Carl, Cheney, cut it out. Stop it. I didn't even open my eyes. I'm just like ornery. Right? He's woke me up, you jerks. And they didn't say anything. And it just kept happening. And I still have my eyes closed. Like, stop shaking the bed, you jerks. And Carl finally goes, what are you talking about? And I could hear he's on the couch, which was a good 5 feet away from me. And I'm like, tell Cheney to quit shaking the bed. And Carl goes, Cheney's laying in his bed, or laying in the bed over there. I'm like, one of the two of you are doing this, stop. And I open my eyes and I turn my head to the side and I look up to the side and look up, and that's where Carl was. And I could see he's laying there. I could see his body. I could see the outline of like him underneath the blanket. I could just see that was Carl, and I could hear him talking to me. By the way, he was completely covered up. He covered his face too. And I'm like, well, Cheney, stop. And I look down, kind of down. I look straight over across the other side of the room, and I could see Cheney laying there, just like, look almost like a mummy from a distance, because he was just like laying perfectly straight. And I look at the mattress, and I don't see anybody touching it. I don't see anybody touching it at the bed or the foot of the bed. I don't see anybody touching right where I'm at. I'm still bundled up in this sheet. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell? I was like, Carl, the bed's shaking. Look. And he goes, no way. I'm not looking at that. And I'm like, Carl, look, the bed's shaking, man. Look, damn it. And he's like, no way. And back in the day, we had this little thing we used to say to each other. We call each other monk holes, like monkey holes. Like the penis is a monkey, back in the day, right? So monk hole, calling each other like, you get where I'm going with that, right? Yeah. So he goes, no way, monk hole. And I'm like, Carl, I was like, dude, you need to look. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because the bed it's still shaking. It hasn't stopped. Nothing else. I put my arm, I slide my arm over a little. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I go, oh my God, I'm going to turn the light on, Carl. You need to look, because we could still see through the light coming through the window, but it wasn't like it opened up the whole room, but it did let me know whether or not I had somebody right next to the bed. So as I'm laying there, I'm like, you know what? Screw this. And like, that I'm a teenage man, right? Where like, I'm going to show you I'm tough. So finally I mustered up enough courage and I go, get the fuck away from me. And I bust out of the sheets as I sit up, and then I stand up onto the bed. It's still shaking. The whole time the bed's shaking, and it's like getting me a little off center. I can tell if I put my hand on the wall as I reach over to turn the light on. The wall's not shaking. Nothing else is. It's just the mattress. So I turn the light on. It's still going. I jump off of the bed and it stops immediately. Immediately stops. And then I'm over there. I'm like, I jump on Carl. I start hitting him. I'm like, you bastard. I was like, dude, that thing was shaking. You could have seen it. What the hell? And he's like, no way, man. I don't want to be up here. So we're sitting there talking, and I was like, Carl, it stopped shaking. Nothing else is happening. The room is back to silence. It's just me talking and Carl talking. Cheney's still asleep. The light's on. He's exactly in the position I saw. It wasn't a silhouette, but the light hue of light across him, he was in the exact same position. He didn't move at all. He didn't wake up from the noise, nothing. So I'm like, I'm talking to Carl and I'm like, dude, I was like, you really missed out. Like you could have seen that. And my heart's still racing like crazy. Floor's fine. There's no shaking on the floor. There's no shaking anywhere in the room. I asked him at the time as well. I was like, was the couch shaking? Nothing was shaking. I was like, when you fell asleep, like, did you feel anything? No, I didn't feel anything. I was like, dude, that's Jacob Marley. Jacob Marley from A Christmas Story.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was what it was called. But anyway, with Scrooge.
That was his name. Yeah, Jacob Marley. It was his business partner.
Yeah. Well, I got the Jacob Marley thing. It's just what it came from. I'm pretty sure that's A Christmas Story, but whatever. It goes to Christmas.
Yeah. It's is it called what the hell is it called, Chad? What's the name of the show?
No.
Blanked.
Oh, A Christmas Carol. That's what it is.
We're done.
God, look at this. I cannot believe I blanked on that, ladies and gentlemen. I used to watch that.
I did.
I used to watch that show, that movie, every Christmas Eve. It was a tradition of my family. The original, the one from like the 60s, Chad, black and white.
Oh, yeah, the good stuff. Back whenever they actually had to act a lot and not had a bunch of CGI and puppets and shit.
Right.
So, okay, so we're sitting there, we're talking, and I'm like, Carl, I was like, I want you to watch. And he goes, I don't want to see it. And I was like, you sure you don't want to see it? Because I really wanted to get a witness to it, not just me, right? So I'm like, look, Carl, hold the lighter against your chest. I'm going to hold my lighter against my chest. If I say something's happening, get up, turn the light on. He's like, okay. He didn't do it the first time. I didn't think he was going to do it the second time. So I lay back down on the bed reluctantly, but I really wanted to get him to see it. Because again, I saw a lot of stuff in my youth, and we can talk about other stories later on some other time. Yeah. So I go lay down on the bed. I cover up with a mattress. I'm covered up with the sheet, laying there, and I'm just waiting. I'm like, this is going to happen again. And I'm like, I made Carl promise he wasn't going to cover his face up. He was going to be able to at least see it, if nothing else. So he promised that he would. And I'm laying there. 10 minutes goes by. Don't really hear anything. Don't see anything. Nothing. And I'm like, I can't go back to sleep at this moment. I'm just like completely wide awake, laying there. And then I was like, I hear this sound. I roll my head slightly off my pillow, and my ear is on the sheet that's on the mattress. And nothing's happening, but then I notice there's a sound. And it sounds, and I can't think of a better description than this. It sounded like nails scratching down the mattress as I'm laying there. And it sounded like it was pretty close to my head. Not right at my head, but it sounded really close. Now, again, I can see what's going on in the room because of the light coming through the window. And my head's turned the right direction. I just merely moved my chin up enough, and I look over, and Carl's still there. Clearly see Cheney still there. I didn't have to even move my head for that because it was already laid to the side. And it just sat there, and I could hear the scratching, and it didn't stop. It was scratch, scratch. And I'm like, I think I've had enough. I'm like, Carl's not going to see this. And I asked him to come over and put his head on the bed so he could hear it. He refused. He's like, I'm not coming near the bed. So I was like, Carl is like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep up here, and I kind of don't want to be up here anymore. You want to go downstairs and sleep on the couch in the living room? And he's like, yeah, let's go. And he just like busts off the couch, and he goes and runs out the door. Cheney's still in there, and I go to stop Cheney. I'm like, Cheney, wake up. Cheney doesn't wake up. I'm like, Cheney, wake up. He doesn't wake up. So I'm like, you know what? You deserve this. So I left him up there. Now in the morning, Carl and I are talking about it, and then I was like, Cheney, did you notice anything? And Cheney's like, no, he was just out like a light. He didn't hear a thing, didn't feel a thing, didn't see a thing, nothing. Slept straight through the night. That thing could have actually like paranormally like butt raped him or something, and he would have just, oh no. So anyway, Uncle Chad's story time. So here's the thing. I'm a skeptic. I prefer science over a lot of things. I'm not really that big into the supernatural and things. I think that a lot of these stories you hear, you can debunk them. You can go through it. So I've looked into a lot of things. We had a wooden house on a pier and beam system. The laundry room was somewhat close to my bedroom, but it wasn't right at it. Yeah, so I waited till the machine would start running so that it was off center, and the dryer it was drying, and the washer to try to get the same things, and none of it was I was unable to recreate it. So here's the question, and this is also going out to our viewers. For what I went through, I'm not saying that it was a ghost. I'm not saying that it was paranormal necessarily, although I may have used the language. I'm skeptical. This is 20 plus years ago. I still to this day can't explain what happened, but I will say this. I don't really know. But from what I shared with you, what's your thoughts? So if you would, I would like for you guys to put in the comment section what your thoughts is on that subject and that story. And also I'd like to hear, from Joshua, what your thoughts are.
I mean, yeah, it was a ghost. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences in my life. I completely believe ghosts are real. Maybe I'll tell one of my paranormal stories next week. Yeah, it's energy has to go somewhere. So when we die, our energy, our spirit, whatever you want to call it, it goes somewhere. And where that goes, I guess we're all going to find out, unfortunately. But yeah, I completely agree, Chad. It was something paranormal, something out of this world. Something was trying to get you, Chad. I do that to my dog, that scratch the sheet, that sound. Oh, Ray hates that. It makes you want to take my hand. So I can hear that sound. I can see the bed twisting. I was able to paint that picture in my mind. Yeah, and also I grew up with two brothers. I have four brothers, so I completely understand as far as the brotherly aspects of kind of hanging out, sleeping in a room together, and having kind of an experience that only you and your brothers can truly understand. So yeah, it was a ghost, Chad. We'll just say that it was a ghost.
So it's interesting because my younger brother was actually the youngest. I'm the second youngest. Craig is part of a company that's called the Brooksville Pit, which is a paranormal investigation team that's located in Brooksville, Florida. So they do investigations, and it's inspired by the house that we grew up in. So it's this kid Jesse that I grew up with, though known the guy since I think we were in second grade or something when we met. Or he was in first, so whatever. Anyway, we've known each other really a long time. He's one of the founders. Craig and Jesse are the founders of that company that go out, and they do investigations pretty much every week. They're on Facebook. If you're looking into or you're interested in finding them, it's called Brooksville Pit, PIT, but it stands for a Paranormal Investigation Team. They do a lot of stuff. Jesse and I bumped heads because I'm more skeptical and he's skeptical, but we've just bumped heads in some conversations, but they're worth checking out. But it was inspired by that house that Craig and I grew up in.
Okay.
Real interesting. So, but I can give more stories because I've got a stupid amount of stories. But if we get people from the audience that ask for it, Uncle Chad's story time, then I'll be happy to share some more. So, but that's all I got for today. I don't have anything else. Your take is it's haunted, right? It was a ghost. No. And the more stories I tell you about it, the more you're going to be like, yeah, it was a ghost, dude. So with that, again, if people really want to hear more of those, I want to see the comments in the comment section. So, but other than that, we do have an email, right?
Yes, we have an email. It's wakingthepeoplepodcast at gmail.com. So any comments, any topics you want to see us cover, maybe some ones you like, maybe some ones you didn't like, email us. We always appreciate the comments. Subscribe again tomorrow or tonight, I guess, is our deadline to hit that 60 subscribers. So if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Have a great weekend. Let's see if my horses are right. I think I'm right. We're going to see, Chad. I think I'm right.
You guys got this. Yeah.
I think I'm
All
right.
right. Well, remember, everybody, we're in this together. Dude, don't forget to subscribe, share it, comment. But with that, Papa Bear needs to get a new desktop. So, if you guys want to start coming together for a little bit of that, we will actually be able to do directly for all platforms at the exact same time once I upgrade my machine. And also my editing will get better. So, but other than that, I don't have anything else. I am your host, Sir Chad Everett Shears, and I am joined with, the man that only Prince would sing about, Joshua McClendon, your Patriot, my Kraken. Yes, yes. Give out them kisses, baby.
Thank you. A little wave as always. Here's the
Diana.
wave. All right. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. We love you. Let's see if I'm right. Y'all can tell me if I'm an idiot. If I'm wrong, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Have a good weekend, guys.